Darnell Nurse is not a happy guy. We're not sure if he's mad at himself for the way he's playing or if he's mad at the criticism he's hearing, but he's not happy. Ryan Rishaug was there in the middle of that scrum and now joins us to talk about it. Ryan, it just seems so out of character for Darnell Nurse. What happened?
Yeah, and a little odd on a game day, Gino. He's one of the leaders in the room, and kind of everybody takes their turn and comes out and does their best with the media. But clearly, Darnell Nurse was not in that headspace today. It is out of character for him. He generally engages with us and does his best to provide good answers. But you could tell right from the very beginning. I said good morning when we walked up, and he didn't say anything. And then, I asked the first 3 questions, and I think it was maybe 15 words total, his answers. He clearly wasn't wanting to engage, was asked other questions about, and I was asking him about Philip Broberg, just, about his game and why he can handle the pressure, and he just wasn't engaged. And then 2 more questions came his way, another 3 or 4 words, and then he just walked out and said thanks before we were actually finished. So you could look at this one of 2 ways. A player that's hyper-focused and ready to go tonight and just too focused to do the thing with the media, or you could look at it as a guy who is heavily criticized in this market, and it's been thick the last couple of days. I think some of it's a little much, but certainly there's a big chunk of it that is deserved for the space that he occupies in this lineup and the expectation on him to play well, and you wonder if that is maybe getting to him because it's heavy, and understandably that would be difficult, but that's part of the job. So this was out of character for Darnell Nurse. Kind of odd that he did it on a game day where you're kind of supposed to just put that best foot forward. But the truth is, Gino, none of it's going to matter. If Darnell Nurse plays an angry, effective game tonight, what he said to us this morning won't mean a thing. It's just really notable that it went that way today.
I don't think that he deliberately tried the us against the world card there, but we've seen it work when teams fall behind in a playoff series before. Connor McDavid jumped in and wanted to talk about Darnell Nurse and say, it's not fair what's being said about him. Do you think the Oilers could actually use this as a rally cry?
I mean, maybe. I think, McDavid was asked, the question was put to both Skinner and McDavid, who were on the podium. Darnell Nurse is facing a lot of criticism here. Kind of what do you think, and you think it's fair? McDavid said, I'll take that. So he jumped in and said, I'm going to handle this one. And he backed his buddy and he backed his fellow teammate. He said all the things that you should say in that moment. A rallying cry, I'm not sure. I mean, if you need that at this point, then you probably have issues. Bottom line, Darnell Nurse needs to play better than he has. I don't think he's been awful, but I don't think he's been good enough. When he is at the best of his game, Gino, he's ferocious, he's feared, he plays hard, he's menacing, and I don't believe he's been any of those things so far in this series. And I don't think he's given them the quality that he has the potential to give them. Just look at the minutes played. He's under 20 minutes a game. I mean, Darnell Nurse should be a critical player that plays tons of minutes. And to this point, his role has been somewhat diminished. So whether it's the noise, the criticism, whatever, whether it's getting to him or not, he needs to use this as fuel, and he needs to play well and bring more than he has to this point. And if he does, that'll be a huge break for the Oilers in this series if he gets his level to where he needs it to be.
Another big item to use on the day is the lineup changes. We're 3 games into the Western Conference Final, getting set for Game 4 tonight. This is where you start doing some tweaking, but Chris Knobloch decides to do some significant changing, Ryan?
Yeah, we could see 3 changes here, Gino, which is pretty significant. Now, he wouldn't confirm any of this, which is also rare. He'll normally tell us what he's doing with his lineup, but understandably, he's playing it a little closer to his vest right now. It's round 3 of the playoffs, so I certainly don't have an issue with that. But I'll quickly run down the changes for you. Probably the most notable is that youngster Philip Broberg is coming in on the blue line in place of Vinny Desharnais. Now, Broberg is a first-round pick, pretty high-caliber prospect for this team, but hasn't really been able to get traction at the NHL level, and he hasn't played since the AHL playoffs finished 3 weeks or so ago. So hasn't seen a lot of action. He goes tonight. Speed upgrade. That's a big part of it. Very fast, very mobile defenseman. Ryan McLeod coming back in. He was a healthy scratch. They probably want to see what they can get from him. He'll be motivated. Sam Carrick looks to be coming out. Sandpaper type, 4th-line center. And then Corey Perry, Gino, looks like he is drawing into the lineup tonight. And Warren Fogle, 20-goal guy from the regular season, spent extra time conditioning after practice. That tells me that he's coming out. So Perry, the veteran savvy, McLeod, the speedster, who just got healthy scratched, who will be motivated, and the young blue liner in Philip Broberg. Significant amount of change. Seems like a lot to me.
It is a lot. And I get the sense that we know where the Oilers are going with this by bringing Corey Perry in. We've talked about the fact that we haven't seen many power plays for either team so far. You talked about the fact you wanted to see the Oilers play with a little more edge. Does this add a little edge and a little more likelihood of us seeing more penalties both ways in tonight's game, which could turn out to be good news for the Oil?
Yeah, that's the key, both ways, right? Because if Corey Perry goes in there and just face washes somebody in the crease and, gets a penalty, the idea is to try and draw the other team into some of that stuff. And he's very, very good at that. They're adding veteran gamesmanship, veteran savvy. Corey Perry understands moments. Both Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid have both said that he has the best in-game management they've ever seen in terms of understanding what's needed moment to moment. What they lose is some foot speed. Warren Fogle is a burner. He is fast. He can skate. He can forecheck. Corey Perry's having a tough time getting around at playoff speed, but he's a savvy veteran, so he's been able to make it work. Bit of a sacrifice there, Gino, but I think you're bang on with the idea that, maybe trying to muck things up a little bit, get into that crease, get it gritty, see if you can get the refs a little bit engaged, see if you can't draw something in the way of power plays.
The Oilers are sticking with Stuart Skinner. There had been some debate about that, but apparently not debated within the organization.
Not for me.
After giving up a
Not for me. You were debating in the mirror.
No.
You and I weren't debating.
No. Fair enough. Okay, more me than you. But he is drawing back in after giving up 4 through the first 2 games. He gave up 4 last game. I thought it was interesting today when he was talking about the fact that in years gone by, I wasn't quite as resilient. I may not be able to adjust coming off a bad start, but now I feel like I'm a different guy. Those are his words. Have you seen enough for him to make you think that, yes, indeed, he does have the resiliency to bounce back?
Yeah, I have seen a couple of nice bounce backs from him if you just look at the history in these playoffs. So in the first round, he had some early bumps and then locked it down late in the series against the LA Kings. In the second round, we saw what happened, right? Fell off the bike completely and had to wait his turn again. And when he got his turn, was very solid, like really good in closing out the Vancouver Canucks. And, since he's been back on the bike again, there have been some bumps, but I think he's been better in this series than he was early in the Vancouver series when he lost the Nets. Yes, he wants that 4th goal back the other night for sure. And yes, Jake Ottinger isn't allowing that goal right now in this series, so it's advantage Ottinger. But, Gino, I think this is the right decision. I think you have to give Skinner the opportunity to bounce back from that bad goal. It's not, to me, in a place where they need to consider pulling him just yet. And he's shown that he can recover and improve. Unlike last year, you'll remember, he kept getting pulled and he'd go back in and there wasn't that bounce back game after game against Vegas. And to me, that's what's different this year.
So many storylines deep into the playoffs. Could Skinner bounce back? How does Darnell Nurse respond after that? And Chris Knobloch making all the changes. If nothing else, Ryan, there's a lot to be watching very closely in tonight's Game 4 as the Oilers are looking to even up their series tonight.